And when I figured out that my childhood buddy was a bona fide straight guy, I buried my unrequited feelings deeper than my biggest secret. But then plot twist, he got bent by my new roommate. Every day, he'd come to me begging for advice on how to win over that roommate, until one fateful day, he asked me how to confess to a guy. I couldn't hold back any longer, so I blurted out, "Just kiss him, way better than any sappy confession." He shot me a skeptical smile. "You really think that'll work?" Before I could even react, he had me pinned against the wall. Grabbing my chin, he smirked. "If I'd known you were into this, I wouldn't have bothered pretending to be polite." In the loud chaos of the karaoke room, all eyes zeroed in on me. The teasing was getting louder, making me feel like I was about to lose it. In my hands was a bunny-eared maid outfit, my mind spinning. Today was the school birthday party, and he was just adding fuel to the fire. "Lee Min, when you lose at dice, you gotta wear the maid outfit." I slammed my eyes shut, grinding my teeth, as I marched to the restroom to change into this tiny pink and white dress. While looking in the mirror to fasten the bunny ears, I almost shattered the thing. After 5 solid minutes of freaking out, I finally calmed down and mustered the courage to step back outside. "Whoa, you look stunning," the class president exclaimed, his eyes glued to me, unable to hold back the compliments. Just then, the door to the karaoke room swung open and footsteps halted. "What in the world are you doing?" I turned around to see Dương Phong Lâm furrowing his brows, giving me a cold once-over. Beside him was Boy Kim, my roommate. If I wasn't mistaken, they were about to become an item. The class president, tipsy as a sailor, approached Dương Phong Lâm, saying, "She lost 5 rounds in a row. This is her punishment." Then he wrapped his arm around my waist and added, "By the way, Lee Min, why is your waist so tiny?" Dương Phong Lâm instantly swatted the class president's arm away. "You can say whatever you want, but keep your hands to yourself." The class president chuckled nonchalantly. "We're all men. A little touchy-feely. Doesn't hurt, right, Lee Min?" I was too busy tugging the dress down to care about his comments. At the mention of my name, I just mumbled something in agreement. The class president raised an eyebrow at Dương Phong Lâm smugly. "See, she clearly doesn't mind. You're just overthinking it." In that moment, I felt the whole atmosphere chilling down. I instinctively looked up and locked eyes with Dương Phong Lâm icy gaze. It was downright scary. I realized he and Boy Kim were twinning in matching outfits, looking like a pair of lovebirds. Hastily, I turned away, suddenly craving a cigarette. Holding the pack, I stepped outside. Unfortunately, this floor had only 2 rooms with people, and a guy stumbled out of the neighboring one. This guy was drunk as a skunk, slurring his words and looking at me all bleary-eyed before mumbling, "How'd I not know there's a cute bunny here?" His gaze became foggy. "What's your name? Want to join me for a drink in my room? I can pay." I pulled out a cigarette, popped it into my mouth, and shot him a side-eye. The audacity of this guy suddenly grabbed my hand. "You're tough for a little bunny." I rolled my eyes, clicked my tongue, and without hesitation, twisted his arm behind his back. With him yelping in pain, I shoved him to the ground and planted my foot on his shoulder. I coldly stated, "I'm your new boss." "Oops, sorry, didn't know you were a guy." Finally letting him go, I turned and started strolling towards the end of the hallway window, pulling out another cigarette. When I heard footsteps trailing behind me, my irritation peaked. Someone laid a hand on my shoulder. Just as I was gearing up to teach this clueless fool a lesson, my arm got yanked back, forcing me to face the culprit. It was Dương Phong Lâm. "What's your issue?" Ready to throw punches before saying hello. He didn't let me go, and his hand slipped down to my waist, pulling me close. My nose almost brushed against his chin, the proximity making me feel all hot and flustered. Dương Phong Lâm stood like a statue, maintaining that position while staring down at me. He smirked slightly, his expression icy yet teasing. "Really, what gives you the right to tell me to let go? If others can touch your waist, what's my deal?" His nonsensical words made me dizzy, and I stared blankly up at him, blinking in confusion. Dương Phong Lâm raised his other hand and gently touched the cute pink bunny ears atop my head. "Don't let just anyone touch you anymore, okay?" I pushed against him with all my might, but couldn't budge him at all. My frustrations were boiling over, and with rebellious courage, I stared straight back. "What if I say, I don't remember?" Dương Phong Lâm laughed through his irritation, his hand trailing up my back slowly. "Lee Min, don't make it hard for yourself." His hand suddenly reached my neck, gripping just the right amount of pressure, his tone nonchalant, yet full of warning. "You better strip this ridiculous outfit off, or you'll behave even worse." I didn't care that I was in his grasp. I shot him a teasing look. "I don't believe you'd actually go through with that." Having known Dương Phong Lâm for over 10 years, he usually kept it together. Unless you really pushed him, he seldom embarrassed anyone in front of a crowd. Just as I suspected, a few seconds later, Duong Pong Lam released me and took a step back, maintaining a respectful distance. He suddenly chuckled, "I hope you keep talking tough like that." I ignored his comment and marched straight toward the room. For some reason, the class president was blushing like crazy and said, "Li Min An Fong, you guys want to play Diju? I can have the landlord make the two of you listen." Just thinking about it made both of us feel nauseous. Oh no, thanks. After hearing that, I masked my emotions and intended to sidestep him to get out. I had no interest in getting roped into that boring game, but Duong Pong Lam unexpectedly yanked me back. He looked straight at the class president with determination. Sure. I squirmed, pleading that I wasn't into it, but Duong Pong Lam shot me a look. "Well, that mouth of yours." I ignored him and stomped straight to my room. For some bizarre reason, the class president was blushing and laughing. "Li Ming Duong Pong, you two want to play landlord? The winner gets to boss the other two around." Just the thought of it made me want to hurl. What a bummer. After hearing that, I tried to keep a straight face as I sidestepped him on my way out. I had no interest in this lame game, but Duong Pong suddenly yanked me back. He looked right at the class president and said, "Sure." I squirmed, insisting that I wasn't interested. Duong Pong gave me a glance like, "If you think I'm scared, just say it outright. I've always hated that teasing nonsense since I was little. If we're going to play, then let's play with that." I turned and went to grab the deck of cards. The class president really thought he was king of the castle. I couldn't help but stare. Holding 4 twos in my hand, my heart felt a little lighter since Duong Pong Lam was a card shark. There was no way we weren't winning this round. The class president lazily threw down his first card, and it was Duong Pong Lam's turn. He casually tossed down 4 aces, and I just stared at him, totally speechless. The class president's mocking laughter echoed throughout the room. "Hey Fong, you tipsy or what?" It took me a moment to regain my voice and ask if he was really okay. Duong Pong Lam lazily looked up, stretching his words with a sly twist. Am I really playing wrong? Looking at my own hand with 4 aces and a dodgy little joker, I stifled my anger and kept my mouth shut. Regardless, with this hand, I could still win, but soon enough, Duong Pong Lam's play got messy, like he forgot how to play the game. When the class president played his last card and shouted victory, all I could do was sit silently. The class president was flailing about, dancing, pointing at us like we signed up for this. "Lai Min, come on, sit on Fong's lap, go on." I just wanted to drop out right then and there. Looking back at Duong Pong Lam slouched lazily on the sofa, tapping his thigh like he was bored. Reflexively, I glanced at Boy Kim, who just stepped out, phone in hand, face as red as a tomato, clearly having a heated argument. Duong Pong Lam urged us to either play or not. He clearly wasn't interested in waiting. I took a deep breath, stood up, and plopped onto his lap, mentally bracing myself for something awkward. With zero emotion, I mechanically murmured, "Hubby." Duong Pong Lam just stared at me, devoid of any expression, as if I were just a block of wood. We both sat there like 2 corpses. The class president frowned, obviously unhappy. "No, Lai Min, this is too sloppy. You gotta be more affectionate." Affectionate my foot. I had to bite my tongue to stop myself from swearing. Instead, I forced a smile and nodded. Since my restraint was wavering, a naughty thought crossed my mind. I placed my hand on Duong Pong Lam's shoulder, leaned in close to whisper in his ear, my warm breath trickling down his neck. I deliberately dropped my voice to a soft coo. "Hubby, if you win next time, I might reward you with a kiss." Suddenly, I saw a storm brewing in Duong Pong Lam's eyes, and he stared at me for what felt like ages before grabbing my chin. I turned back, stroking my chin like I was playing a high-stakes game. Why was Duong Pong Lam seeming so unfocused that day? I was convinced he wouldn't win, so I kept babbling boldly without a care. "What's the problem with that? If you pull off a masterpiece, I'll let you have a 3-minute kiss." Duong Pong Lam cracked a slight smile, his grin tinged with danger. Li Min, only a coward fears what's in front of him. At that moment, I had no idea that 10 minutes later, I'd be dealing with something wild. I simply looked down on him. This round, the class president suggested rolling dice. Each of us would toss 5 dice and guess if the total was high or low. I watched the class president confidently call out the number 4 and the number 3. Duong Pong Lam calmly replied with 5 threes. The poor class president couldn't hold back his laughter and yelled, "Let's see those dice." He opened his cup of dice to reveal the scores. "Haha, I don't have any threes, Fong. Unless you're a tiger, there's no way you're rolling 5 threes. I sighed in relief. Duong Pong Lam clearly wasn't paying attention. Rolling a tiger wasn't easy, especially with his brain only fixed on 4 aces going against 1 3. The odds of that happening were close to 0. But suddenly, a voice piped up. Wait a minute, Fong Lam hasn't rolled yet. The class president sniffed and turned back to crack open Duong Pong Lam's dice cup. He stood there frozen, utterly speechless. Gasps echoed around the room. Darn it, it really is a tiger, Fong Lam. Do you have a magic trick up your sleeve? I felt a wave of anxiety sweeping over me while I squeezed through the crowd, seeing 5 threes. I was rock solid. I was more shocked than the class president. This meant Duong Pong Lam won, and I'd have to kiss him. I turned to Duong Pong Lam. He was focused on me, raising an eyebrow like he was saying, "Who's scared of who?" Just then, Boy Kim came back from a phone call. Worriedly, I watched his reaction only to be surprised when he chimed in, "Kiss him, kiss him." I stared at him in confusion. Was Duong Pong Lam really crushing on me while Boy Kim was just teasing? Duong Pong Lam stood up and dragged me into an empty room. I struggled desperately. Duong Pong Lam, this can't be happening. He coldly interrupted, the corner of his mouth quirking up. We're both guys. What's the big deal? Isn't that what you said? Come on. You said that once, didn't you? What's holding you back? He glared at me with a frosty stare. You're not gay, right? I was as mad as a cat with its tail stepped on jumping up. Of course not. I'm totally not, I insisted. Taking a deep breath to keep calm, I shut my eyes for a second and pecked Duong Pong Lam's lips. Before I could pull back, he wrapped his arms around my waist. Just when I intended to retreat, he tugged me closer, whispering in my ear like it was a dare. 3 minutes, not a second less. Then he kissed me again. After what felt like an eternity of 3 minutes, he finally released me. I gasped for breath, trying not to look at him. Duong Pong Lam, you know that was just part of the game, right? Don't take it to heart. I hurriedly pushed the door and dashed back to the main party. Duong Pong Lam had pretty much stopped playing, just sitting and drinking alone without looking at me once. By the time the party wrapped up, Duong Pong Lam had clearly had one too many. The dorm was locked up tight, so I had to take him back to his off-campus apartment. On the way, we bumped into a girl from our school who had just left a party, her face flushed, eyes glassy from alcohol. She looked at Duong Pong Lam and asked, "Do you have a girlfriend?" Duong Pong Lam replied with an obvious look of annoyance. His brain was locked on 4 aces versus a 3. The chance of winning was practically 0. But just then, someone cut in with, "Whoa, hold up, Duong Pong hasn't even rolled yet." The class president snorted and turned to open Duong Pong's dice cup. Then he froze, totally speechless. Gasps echoed throughout the room. Holy smokes, this guy's on fire, Duong Pong. Do you really want to roll what you're about to roll? I felt my stomach drop as I squeezed through. The crowd, seeing 5 threes, had me completely frozen. I was even more shocked than the class president. This means Duong Pong won, and I'll have to kiss him. I turned to face Duong Pong, who was staring right back at me, eyebrow raised challengingly, as if to say, "Who's chicken now?" Just then, Boy Kim strolled back in after a phone call, and to my surprise, he chimed in, "Kiss him, go for it." I stared at him blankly. Is Duong Pong still crushing on me, and Boy Kim doesn't have feelings for him? Duong Pong stood up and pulled. When he heard the story, he jumped right in with, "Kiss do it." I stared at him completely bewildered. Is Duong Pong Lam still pining away, while Kim doesn't even have a smidge of feeling for him? Duong Pong Lam got up and pulled me into an empty room. I thrashed around in desperation. Duong Pong, this can't be happening. Duong Pong coldly interrupted, smirking. We're both guys. What's the big deal about a kiss? Didn't you say that once? What's the issue? He looked at me with a wicked glare, his eyes sharp as daggers. You're not shy, are you? You're not gay. I exploded like I just stood on a tail. I was definitely not. Tried to keep my cool, closed my eyes, and planted a kiss on Duong Pong's lips. Before I could back away, he wrapped his arms around my waist. I leaned back, but he pulled me closer, whispering in my ear. His eyes challenged me, his voice low and husky. 3 minutes, no less. And just like that, I was kissing him again. It felt like I'd lived a lifetime in those 3 minutes before he finally let me go. I gasped for air, trying not to look at him. Duong Pong, you know that was just part of the game, right? Don't read too much into it. I quickly pushed the door open and headed back to the main party. Duong Pong hardly played anymore. He just sat drinking alone, not even looking my way once. By the time the party wrapped up, he had consumed way too much. The dorm was locked up tight, so I had no choice but to take him back to his off-campus apartment. On our way, we bumped into a girl from school just coming from another party, her cheeks all flushed and her eyes glassy from the booze. She looked at Duong Pong and asked him, "Do you have a girlfriend?" Duong Pong sounded annoyed as he replied, "Sure." He looked at me like he was pondering something for a bit, then nodded as if he'd come to a decision. But the atmosphere in the room remained thick and awkward. I put some body wash on my hands and gently rubbed it on his shoulders, trying to be as smooth as possible. The girl's eyes lit up and I felt awkward, ready to turn away. But then Duong Pong Lam had to say something super annoying. "But I have a boyfriend." The girl looked confused and out of nowhere Duong Pong Lam pulled me in. While I was standing there, he gently stroked my neck, mumbling, "I like you so much, I can't help myself. Right now, I have no intention of breaking up." He said it so naturally without even batting an eye. And it continued like that. "Sorry, sis, but it was only when the girl left that Duong Pong Lam let go of me, perhaps to hide his embarrassment." I decided to poke fun at Duong Pong Lam and asked, "Are you really straight? Ever heard that one?" Anyway, he had never admitted he liked Boy Kim, so I pretended to be clueless about it too. He paused, going silent for the first time, his eyes staring deep into mine. There was an emotion there that was hard to put into words. "Who told you I'm straight?" I froze as a cold breeze swept by, shaking me awake a bit. Duong Pong Lam seemed way more together than I was in that moment on the empty street. In his deep, warm voice, he said, "Lai Min, I have someone I like." He continued, "It's a guy." In those weak moments, I keep comforting myself that Duong Pong Lam just sees Boy Kim as a little more than a friend. He'd never confessed to loving her, so maybe I still had a chance. But his admission today completely shattered my last hopes. After a moment, I finally managed to find my voice. "Who is it?" Duong Pong Lam looked at me without blinking. "Do you know who it is?" Now, I didn't want to talk, so I just nodded and didn't ask any more. I was too exhausted to keep talking. Duong Pong Lam chuckled to himself. "The guy is straight. I haven't dared to confess, afraid they'll run away." I stayed silent. After a while, he suddenly shouted my name. "You and that guy are both straight. Can you help me think of a way to win him over?" He feared I'd say no, so he quickly added, "Please." I shook my head. "Why would I help you?" I stepped closer, smirking. "Let's keep our distance, okay? If you succeed in wooing him and he finds out I helped you, that's gonna raise a red flag." To my surprise, Duong Pong Lam chuckled, giving me a look that was half amused, half skeptical. "That guy won't even notice. He's way too carefree. I doubt he'd let anyone get that close in the first place." My thoughts instantly wandered. Did he misunderstand something about Boy Kim? Not long after Duong Pong Lam confessed, he asked to move into our dorm room. The 4-person dorm that originally held just me and Boy Kim now had him crashing there too. On his very first day, Duong Pong Lam was already bragging, inviting Boy Kim and me to the fanciest restaurant nearby for dinner. I knew I was just his +1 at first. I really didn't want to go, but Boy Kim insisted I tag along. Duong Pong Lam immediately handed the menu to Boy Kim, telling her to order as much as she wanted. She stared at him for a few seconds, then burst out laughing. Throughout the meal, she kept chuckling, shaking her head in disbelief. "Wow, you're really something." I felt awkward watching her. I couldn't believe how easily she fell for such a bait. But turns out I was overthinking it. Boy Kim wasn't being bought off by Duong Pong Lam's dinner. It was just that she didn't realize his true intentions. That evening, she packed her stuff, getting ready to head out for a few days. Duong Pong Lam moved in to spend more time around Boy Kim and close the gap between them, but in the end, it all fell apart. After Duong Pong Lam came back from playing soccer, I told him straight up, Boy Kim is out. He didn't seem surprised at all. Maybe Boy Kim had hurt him too much for him to expect anything. He just replied softly, then raised an eyebrow. "Lai Min, can you help me shower?" I turned around, tossed a nearby book at him with a sarcastic grin. "What, you're injured or something?" "Oh, can't bathe by yourself." Duong Pong Lam whined dramatically, making a serious face. That's when I noticed his arm was swollen like a balloon. I immediately stood up, worried. "What happened? Let's get you to the hospital." Duong Pong Lam waved me off, saying, "I just took a hit while playing soccer. I already got some ointment from the first aid room." He pulled his arm back, speaking coldly. "I won't bother you anymore. I'll find a way to shower myself." His eyes looked a bit downcast, carrying a hint of loneliness. I hesitated for a moment, then decided to call him back. I'll help you shower. Duong Pong Lam paused, giving me a look of irritation. Don't do it out of obligation to protect my delicate pride. I stood my ground. Absolutely not. This felt like a serious psychological challenge. At this point, I didn't know if I should feel happy or anxious, since every dorm room had its own shower. In the cramped space, I felt a bit claustrophobic when Duong Pong Lam put his hand on my waistband. I couldn't help but interject, "You don't need to take your shorts off, right?" His deep gaze lingered on me for a moment, as if he was contemplating something. Then he nodded slowly. Yet the atmosphere in the room remained tense and vague. I squirted some body wash into my hands and gently applied it to his shoulders, trying to be as gentle as possible. Duong Pong Lam was much taller than me, and I think he leaned down a bit, perhaps worried I couldn't reach. As we got closer, the hot water from the shower sprayed onto me, making my shirt cling to my skin, showing off my complexion. "Lie in." His voice was low. "Your clothes are wet." I didn't dare look up at him. I just replied softly, "Yeah." He continued, "Why not just strip and shower together?" He leaned down, almost touching my shoulder. I hurriedly shook my head, trying to cling to the last bits of sanity I had left. No, we don't have to." He didn't press further, but when he lifted his head, his lips accidentally brushed against my ear. I jumped instantly, shoving him away to create some space before my face turned crimson, my head swimming. I stammered, "You can wash yourself. I'm out of here." I quickly dashed out of the bathroom. Duong Pong Lam emerged wearing a dry pair of shorts, bare-chested. He tossed a towel over his head, wiping his hair carelessly, then let it drop. He stepped in front of me, his black, wet hair hanging down, looking innocent and unaware. Since Duong Pong was way taller than me, he leaned down a bit, probably to make sure I could reach him. The hot water from the shower sprayed onto me, causing my shirt to cling to my skin, revealing my flesh underneath. "Li Ming!" His low voice boomed, and I couldn't bear to look up. All I could muster was a soft, "Uh-huh." "Your clothes are wet?" he continued. "Why not just take them off and shower with me?" He leaned down, nearly touching my shoulder. I quickly shook my head, desperate to hold on to whatever shred of sanity I had left. "No need for that," I said. He didn't ask anything else, but when he lifted his head, his lips brushed against my ear. I jolted and instinctively pushed him away, trying to create some space as my face flushed red and my mind spun. "You can just rinse yourself off. I'm gonna," and I bolted out of the bathroom. Duong Pong came out wearing a dry pair of shorts, bare-chested. He tossed a towel over his head to dry his hair and then let it drop. He walked over to me, his wet black hair flopping down, not intentionally. He sat right in front of me. He swapped into a dry pair of shorts, shirtless, and headed outside. He tossed a towel on his head, just giving his hair a quick scrub before letting it drop. He walked right up to me, his wet black hair hanging down, but he wasn't trying to be sneaky when he sat down. He plopped down beside me, scratching my ear like a confused puppy, while mumbling something nonsensical, then planted a kiss right on me. To keep my cool, I just shrugged and said I wasn't paying attention. Duong Pong Lam shot me a smirk, looking pleased as punch. Especially considering that could you be a dear and help me with the ointment again? This time, I made sure to keep my distance from him. Duong Pong Lam leaned back in his chair and snickered, a little cautious. Are we afraid I might steal a kiss? Oh, I gave him an innocent look. Oh, you're mistaken. I'm just a fan of personal space. He chuckled, eyeing the gap between us, and said, to reach me, you'd have to extend your arm fully, which meant I had to stretch out my arm to even graze his elbow. Suddenly, he yanked me closer, slipping his other hand around my back and pressing firmly into my side. Just do it this way. Lie in. If you're not a fan of this position, feel free to hop on my lap. Your choice. He stared me down like he could see right through my soul. So concerned for a straight guy. Huh. He hit the nail on the head with that one, leaving me speechless, so all I could do was repeatedly deny it. No way, that's not happening. Not at all. I'm not concerned, I insisted, quickly bowing my head to apply the ointment on him. That night, lying in bed, my mind started racing again. I realized that lately, Duong Pong Lam and I had been getting a bit too chummy. While I was lost in thought, Duong Pong Lam suddenly clicked his tongue. There must have been a sore spot, so I propped myself up and asked worriedly, "Did you hit your injury?" His voice was as casual as a Sunday morning. The bed felt a tad too big for me. I rolled around a lot and worried I'd bump into his wound. Duong Pong Lam lazily looked up, saying slowly, "If something takes up half the bed, I won't roll over, nor will I hit the injury." Got it. I nodded in understanding. After that, I grabbed my pillow, hopped off my bed, and climbed onto his. Duong Pong Lam stretched himself out, leaving the other half of the bed vacant. He raised an eyebrow, but you could totally tell he was in a good mood. Suddenly playing nice, huh? I stared at him with confusion as I nestled the pillow beside him, creating a barrier. Now he couldn't roll over if he tried. Before he could even muster a thank you, I patted him on the shoulder, saying, "No need for thanks. Sweet dreams, you don't need to reward good deeds." Duong Pong Lam sat silently, staring at the pillow. He hadn't cuddled one in ages. Boy Kim was likely clueless, completely unaware that Duong Pong Lam was sneakily vying for his affection while also ignoring my bubble. But I couldn't handle it anymore. I'd been trying to dodge him lately whenever possible, yet during class avoiding him was impossible. Even in electives, he chose the same ones as I did. Duong Pong Lam slumped down next to me, exuding a touch of irritation. His roommate glanced over, half smirking, half amused. "Care to enlighten me on why we live together? Yet I hardly ever see you." I was sick of this awkward relationship status, and my tone held a hint of annoyance, as if I owed him an explanation. Duong Pong Lam didn't budge, just stared at me while the atmosphere grew icy. After a moment, he retreated to his spot, fixing his gaze on the blackboard. "I've talked too much," he said calmly, and I felt a pang of regret. Before the bell rang, he didn't utter another word to me. The vibe turned a bit tense as the dismissal bell rang. I was ready to bolt when a familiar face called me back. It took me half a minute to remember he and I were in the same club. "Lee Min Yu, do you remember me?" The guy stood awkwardly in front of me, looking a tad red-faced. I nodded. "What's up?" Duong Pong Lam leaned to the side, glued to his phone, not budging. The guy's sun-kissed face turned scarlet when he added, "I just wanted to tell you you're really stunning." I guess it's just because I have a more feminine face. Since childhood, I've been accustomed to compliments. During my rebellious phase, I particularly hated them, so I took up smoking, fighting, and martial arts, anything to break free from that praise. But in the end, I never succeeded. I had to accept my fate. Just as I opened my mouth to reply, Duong Pong Lam jumped in first. He scoffed, his lazy and distant tone ringing out. "Don't get your hopes up, buddy. He's straight." The guy's eyes flashed with disappointment at that. I pondered for a moment and sighed. Maybe I should try mingling with others. I pulled out my phone and handed it to him. "You can add me. I'm off." The guy lit up, nodding eagerly. "Sure thing." Duong Pong Lam chuckled a cold, sharp laugh. He didn't say a word, just turned and walked away. Back in the dorm, it was just me and Duong Pong Lam again. Boy Kim texted to say he was stepping out again. Looking at Duong Pong Lam, he didn't seem to be in the best of moods, like a storm was brewing. But he did nothing at all, just downed a bottle of water before bed. That silly bottle knocked over on the bed, soaking everything and ruining any chance of sleep. I was still staring at his bed when he sauntered over. "Hey, my bed is out of commission for the night. If sharing a bed with you isn't an option, I might as well die right now." Duong Pong Lam and I had this odd mellow madness going on. I blinked for 2 seconds before responding. "Then you take my bed. I'll crash in Boy Kim's bed. I'll just give him a heads up." Duong Pong Lam nodded, a mysterious smile curling his lips. "Your call, but by the time I'm done changing, if I climb into Boy Kim's bed and find an empty space..." I pulled back the curtain only to discover Boy Kim had swiped the mattress, leaving behind just a lonely piece of wood. Why on earth would he take the mattress? I reluctantly shuffled back, crawling into bed with Duong Pong Lam. The dorm bed was tiny. I lay sideways, turned my back on him. Then practically no space was left. At first he faced away from me, but soon Duong Pong Lam suddenly turned around. His voice was right next to my ear. "This shouldn't be too cramped." I answered softly, "Uh-huh." Duong Pong Lam slipped under the covers and laid a hand on me. "Lee Min, I need to share something with you." I realized he had knocked over a water bottle onto the bed, soaking the mattress, making it completely impossible for me to sleep. I was still staring at the bed when he ambled over to it. I was like, "Dude, forget sleeping on that bed tonight, it's soaked. Sharing a bed with you is a no-go. I'd rather check out right now." I had a peculiar connection with Duong Pong that was pretty chill. I stared dumbfounded for a moment before saying, "All right, you sleep on my bed and I'll crash on Boy Kim's bed. I'm gonna go let him know." Duong Pong nodded, a mysterious smile creeping across his face. "Suit yourself, but by the time I'm done getting ready for bed, I'm definitely climbing into your bed." As I lifted the curtain of Boy Kim's bed, I found out that Boy Kim had taken the mattress away, leaving nothing but a bare wood board. What on earth? Why did he take the mattress? So I had to obediently crawl back and squish in with Duong Pong. The dorm beds weren't too spacious, so I had to lie on my side, turning my back to Duong Pong. Before long, there was barely any space left. Initially, he had his back turned to me, but he flipped over after a short while. His voice was right next to my ear, and he whispered, "See, it's not too cramped." I muttered softly, "Uh-huh." Duong Pong under the covers put his hand on me. "Li Ming, I need to tell you something." I was a little stiff when he sweetly mentioned that he was about to confess to the person he liked, and then I opened my eyes and focused intently on the bed's railing right in front of Li Ming. Can you believe it? I felt it deep down. I was just tired of him lounging around, his voice deep and mellow. I really liked that guy, but I didn't say a thing, just pretended to be asleep. It was a Friday night when I had just left the library, and then I got a call from Duong. Phong Lam's voice came through deep and a little tired. "I think I might have had one too many drinks. Can you pick me up?" While hailing a cab and scrolling through my phone, I suddenly realized today's date. Today is Duong Phong Lam's birthday, and I totally forgot about it. Maybe feeling guilty about that little oversight when I arrived at the place he sent me, I found out he had totally tricked me into coming out here. He wasn't actually drunk at all. I wasn't even mad. Why did I come here anyway? I glanced up at the massive Ferris wheel in front of me. "Come take a ride with me." Duong Pong Lam smiled, treating it like a birthday gift from me to him. I pursed my lips, recalling the over-the-top birthday bash Duong Pong Lam threw for me. This year, compared to his celebrations, mine was a total flop. I couldn't bring myself to decline the offer anymore. As the Ferris wheel slowly ascended, I looked at the guy sitting across from me and gently asked, "What kind of birthday gift do you want?" He lowered his eyelashes, clearly not budging. "You could give me one too." "Yeah, right. I wasn't falling for that trap." "You go first," I insisted, and when we finally reached near the top of the Ferris wheel, he spoke up. "Li Ming, how do you think I should confess my feelings for someone to make it more likely to succeed?" I was about to confess, and at that moment, all feelings of guilt just vanished into thin air. Lately, it seemed like every single day, Duong Pong Lam asked me how he should go about confessing. I always coldly replied that I had no idea, but he wouldn't quit pestering me. "Come on, if it was you, what kind of confession would you like?" I stared him down as he spoke, taking in every word. But here was the kicker, it's not about me. Like today, when Duong Pong Lam asked me again, "If it were you, what kind of confession would tickle your fancy?" I finally couldn't take it anymore. I gazed at the gloomy, lightless sky outside the window and just completely gave in, kissing Duong Pong Lam without a second thought. Just go ahead and kiss him directly where I wasn't paying attention. His pupils got darker and his lips curled slightly. "You sure about this?" He genuinely believed we were for real. I chuckled angrily, turning my head back to give him a piece of my mind. But then the guy leaned in, unexpectedly grasped my chin, and casually laughed. "If I'd known you liked this sort of thing, I wouldn't have bothered pretending to be polite." And then he dove down to seal my lips with his. As the Ferris wheel reached the top, the pitch-black sky erupted with a dazzling display of fireworks. My mind was buzzing like it just exploded, thoughts scattered like confetti everywhere. I managed to piece together one shocking conclusion: Duong Pong Lam likes me. Forgetting the initial premise, he was actually into Boy Kim. Suddenly, all those odd moments made sense. He had always shown interest in me getting cozy and chummy. The times he'd shown affection toward Boy Kim always coincided with those nights when she wasn't in the dorm. Boy Kim's knowing glances were mocking Duong Pong Lam's not-so-subtle advances. After our lips finally separated, Duong Pong Lam pulled back a little. He opened his eyes, fireworks reflecting in his pupils while I was wide-eyed, and the love was clear as day. He looked a bit tense, his lips tight as he said, "You said it yourself. You like this kind of confession, so I've done it now. You have to agree." I blinked, flustered, and at a loss for words. The fireworks dimmed, leaving just a faint glow behind. The outside sky turned pitch black again, mirroring Duong Pong Lam's eyes. Just before they completely dimmed, I threw my arms around Duong Pong Lam's neck and planted another kiss on him. The one who didn't know how to react. Yep, it was him. I kissed him softly, leaning in closer, and whispered, "I agree," because I was the one who liked you first. The very next second, Duong Pong Lam flipped the script, kissing me back triumphantly. I wanted to capture the heart of the one I liked. The light in my eyes would never dim. The fireworks lingered in his gaze, shining forever. I thought after our kiss we'd have this dreamy romantic chat, but the moment Duong Pong Lam pulled away, his first words were me scolding me. "Damn, didn't you say you liked Boy Kim?" I looked at him with puffy red lips for 2 seconds, like deer staring at a headlight, rubbing my temples in confusion. "I thought you liked Boy Kim. If I knew you liked me too, it'd be awkward, right?" Duong Pong Lam took a while to process that, closing his eyes and muttering a curse under his breath, but quickly leaned in to kiss me again, softly saying, "My bad. I should have said something sooner." That kiss lasted until the Ferris wheel started its descent. It was way past curfew under Ngiem's watch tonight. I didn't think twice. I just followed Duong Pong Lam back to his apartment. But when I pushed open the familiar living room door, I froze. Duong had vanished. The living room had been converted into a computer room. Noticing my dazed expression, he casually leaned back on the couch and said, "Oh yeah, I forgot to mention there's only one bed." I went silent, my expression turning sardonic. Duong Pong Lam shrugged. "Sorry, I spaced out on that one." I grit my teeth. "Oh, for crying out loud, you did that on purpose." He glanced at his phone, acknowledging my frustration with a bored nod. Then, without looking up, he added, "Come pick a public post." I paused suddenly, my attention diverted. After wrestling with myself for a bit, I hesitantly asked, "Can we not make it public?" Duong Pong Lam shut off his phone and looked up. "The reason I need time to mentally prepare for being public is because I don't want to be looked at weirdly or be the subject of gossip behind my back. But I'm just not ready for that yet." After hearing that Duong Pong Lam stayed silent, he just put forth one request: erase the contact of that guy who added you as a friend the other day. Duong Pong Lam was really possessive. Back when we were just friends, I could tolerate sharing a bed with him, but as a boyfriend, no way. I shoved Duong Pong Lam aside, out of breath. "Okay, we've kissed enough. Surely we can sleep now, right?" He stared at me, his Adam's apple visibly bobbing. He was not satisfied yet. I lost my patience, crawled under the covers, and settled down to sleep. Duong Pong Lam slipped his hand under my shirt. Just as I was about to curse him out, he kissed my ear. "I thought you liked Boy Kim. If I knew you liked me too, it would have been awkward," Duong Pong said after a long pause, closing his eyes and cursing softly before leaning down to kiss me, and added, "My bad. I should have said something earlier." This kiss lasted until the Ferris wheel was about to hit the ground again. Tonight was going past curfew. I didn't think much of it and followed Duong Pong back to his place. But when I pushed open the living room door of the familiar apartment, I froze. Duong was gone. The living room had been transformed into a computer room. Seeing me standing there like a deer in headlights, he casually leaned against the sofa. "Yeah, I forgot to mention. There's only one bed for us," I said, catching my breath as sarcasm dripped from my voice. Duong Pong Lam shrugged. "Oops, my bad, forgot about that." I clenched my jaw. "Dude, you're doing this on purpose." He lowered his gaze to his phone and half-heartedly nodded. "Well, that's one way to put it." Without looking up, he said, "Come here and pick a public post." I froze, my focus immediately shifted. After a moment of internal wrestling, I cautiously asked, "Can we keep it private?" Duong Pong Lam switched off his phone and looked up. "The public stuff messes with my mental prep time. Call me old-fashioned or overly sensitive if you want. But the worst thing I fear is someone giving me the side eye or gossiping behind my back. I'm just not ready for that." After listening, Duong Pong Lam didn't add anything else. He simply made one request: delete that guy's number who added you the other day. Man, Duong Pong Lam is real petty. As friends, I could reluctantly share a bed with him, but as a boyfriend, not a chance. I pushed Duong Pong Lam away, huffing, "All right, we've kissed enough. Can we just sleep now?" He stared at me, his Adam's apple bobbing like he was contemplating the mysteries of the universe. He still wasn't satisfied. Growing impatient, I wriggled under the covers. Suddenly, Duong Pong Lam's hand slipped beneath my shirt. I was about to yell, but then he kissed my ear. "Right." He stared at me intently, his Adam's apple bobbing like it was doing a little dance. He still wasn't satisfied. I grew impatient and dove under the blanket to get some sleep. Duong Pong Lam slipped his hand under my shirt. I was about to let loose with some choice words when he planted a kiss on my ear. "I'm not doing anything, just getting to know your body a little better. Hey, Min, is that your collarbone? What's this part here? As your hand slides down, can you tell me? I grit my teeth, unable to push his hand away, not saying a word. So he kisses my neck. Huh. How about a kiss in that spot? You figure out what that is. All right. I can't take it anymore and shove his hand off my shirt, rolling up in the blanket, while the guy behind me chuckles softly. Next time, let's do it like that. Good night, boyfriend. My dating saga with Duong Pong Lam is only known to Boy Kim. He scoffs, claiming he knew it was only a matter of time before Duong Pong Lam swept you off your feet. He's got some serious game. I feel a bit guilty. Boy Kim awkwardly smiles sometimes, bringing snacks and bubble tea for me, but he probably thinks I'm bribing him. It wasn't long before he moved to a different dorm. I pulled him back. No need to move out. Did you misunderstand something? Boy Kim pats my shoulder saying, I get it. He looked around cautiously and added, keep the noise down at night, man. This dorm isn't soundproof. No, really, you've got me all wrong. He didn't give me any chance to explain and just rolled his luggage out. After Boy Kim left, all the intimate stuff between me and Duong Pong Lam happened only in the dorm, but sometimes I had classes all day. Duong Pong Lam couldn't stand it and would come find me at noon and in the evening. He dragged me to a secluded spot to kiss again. That day was no different. He brought me to the quietest part by the artificial lake for a little smooching. Even with the trees shielding us, we still got caught. I heard footsteps and immediately shoved Duong Pong Lam away. I looked in the direction of the sound and spotted the girl who confessed to Duong Pong Lam just the day before. My worst worry finally happened, seeing her expression full of disgust. So you guys really are gay. I thought that was just an excuse to turn me down. She stepped back, grimacing in disgust. My heart sank, and I was at a loss for words. Duong Pong Lam's expression was icy, his eyes narrowing. She asked, what did you say? And backed away, glancing at us with an accusing look before leaving. Anxiety washed over me. Here we go. Just 2 days later, a blurry photo of me and Duong Pong Lam kissing popped up on the school's wall. It was taken by that girl who had been lurking around us that day. What a revolting gay couple at school. I couldn't believe it. The sight of same-sex couples was already disturbing enough. Here, we normal folks are biting our tongues and not protesting openly, and yet they dare to make others sick in broad daylight. It's true. If you're going to be gay, take responsibility for it. Don't hide like cowards. My hand holding the phone felt cold and started shaking. The post had been up for 18 hours with over 5,000 likes and more than 600 comments. That was the hottest post around my finger hovered over the comment section, but I hesitated to click it. The silence in the room was so loud I could hear my heart pounding. The door suddenly swung open. It was Boy Kim chuckling while looking at the phone. I'm about to burst out laughing. Duong Pong Lam's comments are hilarious. Automatically, I thought he meant that he was tearing through 600 comments. Duong Pong Lam was probably half of them going wild in a heated debate with others. But when I scrolled to the comments, I was a bit surprised. I told you, so I knew they were for real. Wake up, girls, your ship just sailed. I questioned. What's wrong with the two hottest guys dating each other? If a handsome guy can be with an ugly girl, why can't a pretty girl be with a handsome guy without snickering? Turns out I'm not the only one shipping these two. I had noticed the unusual way Duong Pong Lam looked at Lee Min. It was enough to melt you. I kept scrolling, and most comments were vibing with that energy. I set my phone down, leaned back, and breathed a sigh of relief like I just dodged a bullet. The heartfelt and kind comments made me feel all warm inside, but my anxious vibe wasn't going away just yet. A moment later, I noticed. Boy Kim was still glued to the comment section. I remembered his previous words, picked up my phone again, and patiently scrolled to the end. Finally, I stumbled across those malicious comments. Wow, some folks really have a knack for being nasty about two dudes kissing in public. It's like they were the ones who got nausea from seeing two guys kiss, yet they were busy tearing apart that girl. Don't love men too much. I called out earlier. Duong Pong Lam replied to this comment. How'd you know it's a girl who's the real deal? All right, I'm coming to discuss privacy issues with you. The other person didn't respond anymore. And, sure enough, Lai Min is gay. Just what I suspected. I thought he had a thing for me. He keeps staring. Like, dude, quit being creepy. People attach photos, hiding their faces while running away. Duong Pong Lam even dissed me before. Why would I want to look at you, you rectangular warrior standing at 160 centimeters and weighing 100 kilograms? Bro, quit fooling yourself. Every time someone posted a nasty comment about me, Duong Pong Lam was right there to fire back. A few comments also criticized him, but he didn't respond. I scrolled through each comment one by one. I examined each one closely, not missing a single one. I didn't even notice when Boy Kim left. I called Duong Pong Lam. He answered quickly, sounding a bit busy. I'll call you back later. Before he hung up, I rushed to speak. Where are you, common classroom? He said, then hung up. Half a minute later, I saw him reply to the latest nasty comment about me. Seriously, Li Min is handsome and calling him feminine. What's up with you? Did you grow up without a mom, so everyone looks like her to you? I burst into laughter, but my eyes started watering. I couldn't hold back. The common classroom had ended ages ago in this vast room. Duong Pong Lam was all alone, glued to his phone, typing away, like a man on a mission. He was so focused that he didn't even notice me standing right in front of him. Duong Pong Lam had just hit send on a harsh comment, his lips curling into a cold smile as he remarked casually, "What an idiot." I accidentally glanced at him and realized he finally noticed me. The moment he saw my red-rimmed eyes, his expression turned serious. What's wrong? Why are you crying? Did you see something disgusting? What an idiot, he commented nonchalantly, glancing at me. The moment he noticed my red-rimmed eyes, his demeanor shifted to serious. What's wrong? Why are you crying? Did you see something disgusting? He hurriedly set his phone down, trying to reassure me that there's nothing to worry about. Not many people are talking about you. Even if a few trolls try to stir things up, I'll just blast them with my words until they delete their comments. But eventually, I couldn't hold back. Again, feeling cozy in his embrace, I lowered my voice and said, I'm not scared anymore. Duong Pong Lam, let's go public. He pulled me back from his hug, asking softly, what did you just say? I locked eyes with him and boldly confessed, I said I like you. So let's be brave and face all the challenges together.